Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming my October eyeshadow palette ranking video. I tried 19 palettes in the month of October. So if you guys are curious about how I'm gonna rank them, then just keep watching. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome. My name is KARENHARRIS. I like to film tan girl friendly makeup videos here on YouTube. I do post quite often, so highly recommend subscribing, turning on that bell so you're notified every time I post. And if you're kind of sick of watching eyeshadow palette videos, this might be the one to watch because I really summarize everything I tried in the previous month. So if all of that sounds good to you, without further blabbering, let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, I did try out 19 palettes in the month of October. The palette I have on in this video has not been announced yet, so definitely stay tuned. If it has been announced, I will link the video down below. If it hasn't, it's probably coming soon. Super, super beautiful, so you'll be able to see that in my November rankings video. Now, I always feel like I need to somehow give disclaimers. I don't really have like a method of how I rank things. I don't have a chart. I don't give people scores, but in my mind I try to think of like, did I love the color story? Do I like the formula? Is this a custom formula or a private label formula? Is this an indie brand or a mainstream brand? Are there other palettes from this brand that I think are so much better, so I know this brand has more to them? Like, I try to think of everything I can in my head, and I also try really hard not to overthink it because it is just like palette ranking. So if I rank one of your favorite palettes lower, it's fine. It's totally fine. It doesn't mean I'm ranking you. Although I will say nobody actually goes after me for my rankings, so it's fine. But I just want to say it's nothing personal. Okay, so let's start off with, I don't think I've ever ranked a palette this low from this brand because it's one of my favorite indies. But in the 19th spot, we're gonna give it to Nomad. Listen, there are a few other neutral palettes in this video, but a 6-pan neutral palette, I mean, it could have been any brand, and I feel like this is where it would have landed because I just don't reach for stuff like this very often. I definitely have my days where I want a neutral palette, but I feel like I need more neutrals than this. I get the whole vibe of this. It was made for a travel palette. It's a quick, easy grab go situation. So I get all of that, but I just didn't find this color story spoke to me. And there's so many other palettes from this brand I love so much more. So we're ranking it at number 19. Now, I will say that the Nomad palette has the same great quality that I'm used to from the brand. This palette is a really fun color story, but I'm ranking it at number 18 because I just wasn't that blown away by the formulas. These mattes felt pretty dry. The multi-chrome was pretty basic. It wasn't as beautiful and brilliant as like the multi-chrome I have on my eyes right now. So for those reasons and the price point, I just feel like Natasha is capable of more, so we're ranking the mini trio chrome palette at number 18. Okay, in 17 and 16 I'm ranking the Pyro palette and the Dendro palette from Beaute. I just feel like for what's trendy right now in eyeshadows, I don't feel like monochromatic palettes are where it's at. This launch I felt like just kind of came out of nowhere, and in their defense, these palettes launch like at the height of all the Halloween and fall launches, so I feel like they kind of got left behind. And the collection is good quality, it's nice, but it's not really fighting through the noise of all of the other releases that came out, so that's why these are in 17 and 16th place. In 15th place is another palette that I just didn't feel like cut through the noise. This is the 2-Up palette from Lethal Cosmetics, and when I say noise, I don't mean it in like a negative way, like, oh, it's just like background noise. I mean like there's a lot of brands making a lot of really good stuff, so you have to be like exceptionally good to rank high in these rankings, especially the last month and this month. So anyway, this Lethal palette, it's cute, but I feel like the color story is very specific and you have to be really into these shades to want to go out of your way to pick this palette up. This brand is a German indie brand, so they are sold at Camera Ready. I haven't bought Lethal on Camera Ready's website, but at least they have that option. But if you're buying straight from the Lethal website, you know, you're paying for shipping and conversions, and then you're waiting a really long time for the palette to come. So for all of those reasons, I feel like this one didn't appeal to me as much as some of the other palettes in this video. Okay, in 14th place, I gave it to Colourpop. This is the Cloud9 palette. And even though it's not my favorite color story, I feel like these grungy tones are so in right now. And so if you want an affordable option, I think Colourpop did a really good job with this palette. It has a lot of really nice cool tone shimmer shadows, lots of light shades. I wish this black wasn't one of their mattes with like shimmer in it, but I know a lot of people really like that formula. So it obviously doesn't have to be like made for me every time, but I feel like with the Ghostface palette, with the Natasha Denona Mini Xenon palette, the new Huda Beauty palette, there's a lot of like more expensive grungy palettes. So I'm glad that Colourpop added something that was grungy that's a little bit more affordable. You can also pick this up at Ulta. This one was sent to me from Colourpop. Okay, in 13th place, we have this little quad from DD Signature. This is really cute. I feel like a lot of the eyeshadow palettes these days are like 12, 15, 18 eyeshadows. So I wanted to give this quad a little shout out, and it's a really pretty, really nice color story. There's contrast here with the dark plummy purple, a really pretty duochrome shade, and this grungy green, so you could create some fun looks with this guy. In 13th place is another DD palette. This is the classic Odin palette. I do believe this one is sold out. This is a beautiful fall palette if you love those color stories with the warm oranges, the greens, and the golds. This is perfect. DD's does make pretty affordable eyeshadow palettes and their quality is amazing. So if you love this, definitely check it out. I did rank it a little bit lower just because this packaging isn't my favorite. So I took a few points off for that, but that is in the 13th spot. In 12th place, I have the Natasha Denona Mini Xenon palette. And honestly, I'm ranking this lower because of the color story. I think the formula is great. The quality is nice. It's just a very white, gray, black palette. And I know some people are really into that. It's just not my favorite. So I'm ranking it a little bit lower, but I ranked it kind of towards the middle because it has good quality. Okay, in 11th place, another palette that is good quality, great packaging, but the color story was just like, meh. I'm excited that they came out with the Christmas Town palette because I think it'll be fun to like pair those palettes together. I love the whole story that Melt told us with the whole situation, the collection, the multiple collections. I think it's great. It's really a nod to the old Melt that I know and love. So for that reason, again, I'm kind of ranking this in the middle. I do wish Melt would try and expand into some multi-chromes, do some fun duochromes. Their formulas or like their color stories really haven't evolved that much. So I would love to see that happen for them. But other than that, this is like such a wonderful like collector piece, especially if you are a big fan of the movies. I think I somehow managed to lose count, so I'm on to palette number 9. This is the Mirage palette from Alter Ego, and this is a very affordable neutral palette. It is so beautiful. I really, really think the formula of this palette is what sold it to me. Like I said, I definitely prefer much more vibrant color stories, but if you're looking for a solid workhorse palette for a neutral lover, you might want to check this one out from the brand Alter Ego. Okay, in 8th place, I gave it to Glaminatrix and their Rich Romantics palette. This is like a more updated take on something like the classic Modern Renaissance palette from ABH. I honestly want to get rid of my ABH palette so bad, but I keep holding on to it thinking like, oh, I'm gonna need it someday to compare it to something, and it's like I never really do, and the formula in that is so old that it's like not that great anymore. So yeah, I don't know why I keep holding on to it. Plus I have a million better palettes that have a similar color story. So it doesn't make sense, but anyway, I keep holding on to it. This is gorgeous. It has the smaller pans, which I love, and it has some beautiful multi-chromes, just a really nice neutrally mauve-y palette that I can see a lot of people really vibing with. A much more toned down palette, I would say, for Glaminatrix, that I feel like for the longest time was doing those really vibrant, colorful color stories. So it's nice to see them do something a little bit softer and more romantic. Okay, in 7th place, the Sigma and Beauty and the Beast palette. This is so beautiful. There's some really fun colors in here that I wasn't really expecting that Sigma could pull off. I feel like a lot of the times they do kind of a neutral color story. I love their quality though. They're definitely one of those bigger brands that has good quality in my opinion. And I'm just so excited that they did Beauty and the Beast finally, and I love the packaging. Such a good palette. Love the shade Beast so much. I feel like that was like the game changer shade for me in this palette. That was a little bit different for Sigma. So I'm happy they included a blue. And yeah, this is very, very pretty. And I feel like I said everything I needed to say. So that is the Sigma palette that they did in collaboration with Disney Beauty and the Beast. Okay, in 6th place, I'm going to give it to the Gothic palette from Cosmic Brushes, one of my favorite indie brands, and I have definitely declared myself as a green lover here on YouTube, but I will say purples are like coming around. You know, I do like wearing purple eyeshadow. I feel like this look is like a purple blue look, so yeah, I'm definitely more into purples than I used to be, and this is a great kind of gothic-y, I mean, it's just perfect with the theme of the whole thing, and coming out around spooky season totally made sense. So this is the first time I saw them do a 12-pan color story, and it's the same good quality that we know and love from Cosmic Brushes. Okay, in 5th place, this one is kind of a wild card, but I love this formula so much. This is the Abscissions palette from Artitude. I feel like this is their best palette so far. Oh my gosh, I just love the green look I did with this, and that multi-chrome is so beautiful. So this was my first time trying the brand. I have gotten some of their products in PR before, but this was the first time I was able to try their eyeshadow, and I feel like I've heard that this is the best formula yet. So very, very excited. So happy to own this one. Let me know if you guys picked this palette up when it launched. And they are a small UK-based indie brand as well, in case you didn't know. Okay, in 4th place, this palette has not even been announced yet at the time I'm filming this, but by the time I post this video, I think it'll be announced. So this is the Snow Dream palette from Odin Eye. You guys know Odin Eye is like one of my favorite indie brands, and this is their holiday launch. There's another palette that I only tried in the month of November, so that's why this palette is being featured in October, not that one. I tried to get a head start on my looks with this. So this is a muted Christmassy palette. So if you liked the color story from Amanda's palette, their Makeup Just for Fun Legendary Diversa palette, I think you would love this one. It just has those muted greens paired with some really punchy like browns and reds, so it's a really fun way to amp up those greens. But I just feel like this is such a fun take on a very festive palette. I feel like every time I think of like a holiday, traditional holiday palette, I think of their palette. That's this one. I feel like every time I think of holiday, I think of palettes like their Merry Christmas palette, which is just like bam, right? Greens, reds, vibrant shades. But I think that if that one kind of freaked you out and you wanted something a little bit more subtle, look no further than the Snow Dream palette. Okay friends, top 3. So in 3rd place is the Siren Sunset palette from Lunar Beauty. I haven't liked a Lunar Beauty palette this much in a long time. I think the formula is elevated in this palette. I love that Manny branched into some multi-chromes and duochromes. I think that was a big hit, because when you are kind of in the mainstream, even though this is like an indie brand, when you're a mainstream YouTuber and you play with a lot of like bigger brands, I feel like that's the one thing that is lacking with brands like Too Faced and Benefit and stuff like that, they haven't really delved in to the multi-chromes, and so I'm so happy that Mandy did with this palette. It's so beautiful. The formula is so good, so that is why it's in third place. Okay, in second place, I had to give it to Unearthly and their Fall Magic palette. My Sorcerer Smoke palette is currently out for delivery, so I can't wait to play with that one, but Amanda sent like one palette and now she's sending us the other palette, so I'm excited because different affiliates got different palettes and I got this one, and I swear the original Fall Magic palette was one of my favorite color stories from Unearthly, so I did pull that one out for the video I filmed with this, and I did some comparing. So if you want to see if you should get this one, you should definitely check out my video because I was like losing my shit over there. But this is gorgeous. I love the repackaging. I'm so happy that I have both, and it is in second place. Okay, so have you guessed what the #1 palette of October was? I feel like competition was fierce, but this palette, this brand has just been taking my money since September, right? Yeah, I think September when I first tried them out. So yeah, I gave it to the Twisted Tea Party, and at the time I'm filming this video, they started sneak peeking another palette, which I'm assuming is their holiday palette. So like, just know that another $80 is probably going to be leaving my bank account, and I'm not mad about it. It's fine. I'm assuming it's going to be great. I can't imagine that I'll ever be disappointed by an Ensley Rain palette, but this Twisted Tea Party palette, I was like humming and hawing. I'm like, oh, those shades, I don't know, they don't really go together. I don't really know if I need that. And then I like created one of my favorite looks with this palette. So this is the Twisted Tea Party palette. I do believe this is sold out, but there is a pre-order on their website. It is gorgeous. Definitely go ahead and check out my video because I did swatches and I did 2 eye looks with this. And I mean, this packaging alone, like, I'm not really one to be like, oh my god, packaging, like let me pay extra money for a palette that I don't love the color story just for the packaging. I don't do that generally. But this one, it's like, it gets everything. Like, it gets points for packaging, gets points for color story, gets points for formula, gets points for innovation. Price point, it kind of hurts, but you know, I always say, watch many videos. Don't just take my word for it. Check out other people's opinions. Use a discount code. That's what they're for. Save yourself some money. It's a free way to get a discount. So yeah, that is my #1 palette for the month of October. Okay, friends, that is it for my October ranking video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said at the start, this is a great way for me to kind of round up all the palettes I tried in a month. That way, if you missed any of my reviews, you can just check this video out. It's like a one-stop shop situation. So I hope you enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up if you did. And I will see you in another video very soon. Bye, friends.